Happy Monday, or is it a happy Monday? Welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. I'm Johnny Venerable. He is Bo Brack. And Bo, the cuts have already began for the Arizona Cardinals. And surprise, surprise, it is at the most important position for this franchise. Colt McCoy has been cut by the Arizona Cardinals and Monty Ossenford.
It's a shock to everybody but my co-host Johnny Venerable. He was so elated he could barely even put together 2 words in the sentence. But look, props where they are deserved. Johnny Venerable, he brought this up after Saturday's game. Colt McCoy was in uniform, not in pads, and did not play for the Cardinals. And it was the end of the Colt McCoy era, 3 seasons into it. And it was shocking because I thought at least his experience was going to give him the edge to, if he fell out of the quarterback 1 spot, which it looks like it's all signs to Joshua Dobbs, that McCoy could at least back up there until Kyler Murray comes back. And then they could start to talk about, him being cut and what his future is. But they decided to make that decision today. And much like the moves from last week, it's like, they're just moving off of guys that they don't envision a future with right now.
They have confidence in the quarterback room that they have. And I think, again, to Bo's credit, last Thursday, after this move was made to acquire Joshua Dobbs, my co-host has not wavered on his belief that Joshua Dobbs is going to start more than likely week 1. Now, the biggest point of contention was, what does that mean for Colt McCoy? And you still thought, as did much of the fan base, that there's still value on having Colt McCoy on the roster. The Cardinals, with their move today, said there is not value in this. And I think it just speaks back to what they didn't see over the course of training camp in the preseason and just how bad last week was for Colt McCoy. I got some insight before the show today, Bo Brack, and basically it came down to Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenford had a conversation last week that we cannot subject our young players and our fan base to this kind of play because he was QB1. And while we emphasized this last week that Clayton Tune was given a chance to compete and win the starting job, he didn't do that, and Colt McCoy subsequently lost it. They had to go out and be aggressive and find somebody that they can hand the baton to in week 1 if and when Kyler Murray wouldn't be ready, and he's not ready. And we're going to talk about that later on in the show. But, I mean, it was not something to the effect of, let's just wait and see. They were proactive in getting Joshua Dobbs here point blank because Colt McCoy, respectfully, just doesn't have it anymore. And again, I'm not going to sit here and gloat and talk about, I'm excited that Colt McCoy's not on this team anymore. I've been consistent in my mindset, Bo Brack. If somebody's going to pay somebody $5 million to do a job, then they're going to try their best to do it, right? Colt McCoy did his best to go out there and compete. My argument was from the beginning, you have no allegiance to this player. Why are you opting to roll with him? And did they take their time in doing so? Yes. Would I have preferred them spending a little bit more money in March and securing Joshua Dobbs for the last 6 months? Absolutely. And if they could have a mulligan, they would go back and do it again. They easily would go back. They misread how much Colt McCoy had left in the tank. But kudos to them. They said, all right, we're not going to screw around anymore. And this was my point after the postgame show Saturday. It's like, you've acquired Joshua Dobbs now. What point is it to go out there and continue to start a player that you don't have confidence in Colt McCoy?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. It came down to the final straw, or the straw that broke the camel's back, was the performances in Minnesota. And Jonathan Gannon, Drew Petzing, the brain trust as far as the decisions on the offensive side of the football, they said, hey, this isn't cutting it. This isn't going to be competitive at the NFL level. This isn't going to be competitive in the interim while Kyler Murray is out. And they just said they were, and DTR had given them an opportunity to where Joshua Dobbs, who was signed to be the backup to Deshaun Watson. Yeah. I mean, all these variables, they played a role in this. And it worked out that the Arizona Cardinals, the guy they identified, according to Johnny's sources back in March, and it's been confirmed by Monty Ossenford on the telecast on Saturday and Jonathan Gannon again today, was they identified Joshua Dobbs with experience in the system. They like his mobility. They like his arm strength. And they wanted him to potentially be the bridge to Kyler, and they couldn't come to terms on a contract. And then, better late than never, I guess, because I think that then once Dobbs was out of the conversation, they said, okay, what do we have now? What does the quarterback pool look like? And there wasn't a whole lot there. And they said, okay, let's see what Colt McCoy has. And this is what Jonathan Gannon said as far as the decision into cutting Colt McCoy today. Damon, can we have that clip where JG breaking down the decision to pull the trigger today?
I don't think it's anything that he didn't show us. I think it was just, like I said, looking at OTAs and then training camp and the games and just, like I said, the full body of work. We just feel like this is the best way to go.
OTAs, training camp, the games. Now, 9 for 12, 3 series in the games, but I think it was more, OTAs and training camp where, this show is reported, the uneven camp that Colt has had. And that's coming from me, from Johnny, just the brutal camp that Colt McCoy has had, where he had non-throw. Dude, I'm not even joking. I mean, it's what you saw and what you were privy to. It wasn't enough, right? And the Cardinals had to pivot, and this was the pivot.
Yeah, and I think again, there's a take here on this show, which I would argue is the accurate take, and then there's the national media take that this is a step in the tanking direction. This is the opposite of that, and I tweeted this out, and everybody, 182 people in here know this to be true, but I think it bears repeating. Tanking is rolling with Colt McCoy. Like, they would have lost in spectacular fashion with Colt McCoy. I've believed that for the last 6 to 8 weeks. I've said that consistently. That's why my hope, not my belief, but my hope was Kyler Murray's ahead of schedule, because how could you subject your team and your fan base to this? It's not good enough, especially when we had a graphic producer Damon put together like last week, backups upon backups that are better than Colt McCoy. Like, what are we doing here? And so what they've shown you was it took them a little too late, but they did it anyway. Like, we're going to be able to assess our young players and give them positions to succeed. It may not always result in a W on Sundays, but we cannot subject, respectively speaking, Paris Johnson and Yelda Froldholt and Michael Wilson and Rondell Moore and Hollywood Brown and Trey McBride to a quarterback who can't operate at a level that's acceptable for this franchise. And again, anybody who is arguing about tanking this morning has not watched or paid attention to Colt McCoy this offseason. He cannot compete. His body has given up on him. And they love Colt McCoy. And I think there was a question earlier in the chat. I want to get to it. Why didn't they just spend a couple extra $1 million to secure Joshua Dobbs in March? Do not believe what folks on Twitter are saying, like Dobbs rejected them. He did not reject them. The Cardinals could not come up with a number that they felt comfortable with, and instead talked themselves into Colt McCoy. McCoy's at the facility every day. He's at Ossenford and Gannon's opening press conference. He's a great guy. He's a great guy to be around. That's why a lot of people are disappointed for Colt McCoy, the person. So it's easy to talk yourself into a guy when, yes, he's older, but he's got the experience. They're in shorts and T-shirts, right? He's a glue guy. He's everything you want. That's why he's been a great backup for this franchise. But when it's time to pad up and you need guys to produce in late July and August and show up for your team, he physically couldn't do it anymore. And that was my argument over the course of the last 6 months. Are they really going to roll with a guy who couldn't finish last year and presumably had his foot out the door for retirement?
Yeah, I mean, the people speculating and continuing to speculate that this is just even more proof that it's a tank. Look, this is a rebuilding roster. This is rebuilding an NFL football team in 2023, where you arm yourself with as much draft capital as possible. You give yourself the ability to go any direction salary cap wise, and you shed yourself of the previous regime's issues. And to try to move forward and try to put a Band-Aid over these bullet holes, it just doesn't make sense for Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon to carry on those burdens anymore. It's one thing to come in here and have players that are rah and completely bought in, but then there's guys that were on the roster, and this isn't Colt McCoy. Like, Colt McCoy, I'm sure, did everything that was asked of him. But when it comes to him being on one side of the field and being from one, the opposite hash and having to make a throw across the field to maybe the chains, and try to throw for a first down, his arm strength was the point where he'll try to make that throw and it's pick six city. It's just, he just didn't physically, like arm strength wise, it just never came back. And it's one of those things that I don't think you could predict if it ever was going to come back or when it was going to come back. But it was a liability. It was a liability. So you've got the experience in Colt McCoy, but physically he doesn't have it. He can't make the throws, and it limits you offensively there. And then you've got the 5th round rookie where we saw the limited, as far as where he was limited in the opening drive on Saturday, where he doesn't pick up, cover 0. and he gets blitzed to holy hell, and he fumbles the football and puts the Vikings immediately within striking distance for their second touchdown in the game. So it's like, okay, let's get a guy that can make the throws. He's mobile just like Tune. He's got this probably about the same arm strength. He's got good size. He's good between the ears. He's got experience in the system. To say that Joshua Dobbs isn't their best option, it's been there the entire time.
Yes.
Just connect the dots. It's simple.
Yeah. And also, like, to point in the chat, I can't remember who said this. 8-man boxes is what you're going to get with Colt McCoy. They were already getting that in the preseason. Go look back at the Chiefs game. Go look back at the Bronco game. Defense does not respect Colt McCoy at all. They came up and they stacked in the box, and that's why there's a difficult time for guys like Rondale Moore to separate, because there's so much collusion at the line of scrimmage because they know Colt McCoy can't throw the ball downfield. And again, my point has been consistent. Like, I wasn't clamoring for Clayton Tune to start because I think Clayton Tune should start NFL games as a 5th-round rookie on a rebuilding roster. But Clayton Tune has been better this offseason, this preseason, just by sheer, physical attributes, right? Does he have the pre-snap mentality and experience? Of course not. But I think, again, the chunk plays, being able to see that. And again, he's still, quote unquote, in contention to start, but I don't think anybody in this chat and this show would suggest that he's the favorite. I mean, Joshua Dobbs, if you watch his TikTok, he's fantastic on social media. He's in Arizona right now. They are prepping him to be the starter week 1 against the Commanders. They called Joshua Dobbs last week and his agent when the trade was made, get ready to play. I have that sourced. Get ready to play. You're going to be playing. And I think by all accounts, they can scheme up. This is also, I think people are missing this point. The support that Gannon has and the belief in Drew Petzing to be able to put a game plan like this together is immense, right? Like, think about prior regimes where it's like, we got to put it all in the quarterback. We're not going to be ready to go. This speaks to what they're going to be able to do with Joshua Dobbs in a short amount of time. They might run the ball 40 times week 1 against the Commanders, but they're going to be able to put something together, scripted plays, the first couple possessions that put the Cardinals in a position to not be an embarrassment. And again, I think he's only going to build confidence. I think the schedule early this year, I don't think these are great defensive teams outside of, Washington's got some players. Are you going to sit here and tell me, I'm going to be as unbiased as I can and say there's a huge difference between Sam Howell and Joshua Dobbs? I don't think there is. I think the Cardinals are better coached, and I think they've got better skill players, certainly at receiver at times, and then in the secondary. I know they've got Scary Terry and Johan Dotson. They've got good players. But people argue like this gap is immense, like the 7-point spread. It is with Colt McCoy, but I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised what they get out of this young man.
Yeah, it's gonna take still a Herculean effort for him to get up to speed, develop
100%.
rapport for sure. It's an uphill climb, but I think still, if they might have gone a different direction, if Tune was the guy. I mean, he can say they're going to compete. Jeremy Fowler, I believe, reported that they when they talked to McCoy today and gave him the news that it was. They're pivoting to Joshua Dobbs. I mean, that's from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. So, I'm even if there's no validity to that report, I mean, just look at how they've operated this preseason, and they just want, obviously Tune to be ready if his number is called, but they don't want to put the pressure and then for the sake of Clayton Tune getting his NFL career off to a solid start, not developing bad habits off the bat, because he goes in too early. It's asking him too much. And I think that they realize that, but at the same time, I think they found somebody that Drew Petzing, no doubt about it. He brought his name to the table. Monty Osfort, of course, knows what he's dealing with because of his time in Tennessee in those final 2 games. And, people can look at it and say, hey, Joshua Dobbs doesn't have that much more experience than Clayton Tune, just 8 games, 2 starts. But look, this is a guy who's been in the league as a 4th-round pick himself, with the Steelers for a while, a very rock-solid organization, and then jumped around to Cleveland, to Tennessee, and back to Cleveland, and now to Arizona. Like, this guy has way more reps under his belt. He has, as far as preparation and as far as gearing up for an NFL defense, like, he's light years ahead of where Clayton Tune is right now. So I think that just immediately gives him the edge. Now, is there like a reality where Clayton Tune just comes out and he's just perfect in practice? Like, very slim chance that happens, but I mean, I think that people just need to prepare themselves to no longer doubt Dobbs.
And People disagree because they like Colt McCoy, the person, and I can respect that. This is a good day for Cardinal fans, not because a man got released. Colt McCoy got paid a premium to leave, and who knows? Another team could pick him up and have him be a part of their active roster, but he's got to pass a physical. He's got to show he can still complete throws. Like, I think there's a pretty good chance Colt McCoy maybe retires and joins another NFL franchise. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's a good day for this fan base because, number one, it shows you that they're committed to trying to compete this year, contrary to what the national media will tell you, and also they're going to be much more watchable and competitive with Joshua Dobbs. It is not even close. They become a much more viable product. Plus, you can now cement this guy as the true bridge to Kyler Murray. Yeah. Joshua Dobbs is built, I believe, to start 4, 5, 6 games, and they want him to do that. They fumbled this, and they're rectifying it now. So I think that, I'm somebody that's banging the table for change. Now I think very similar to like what's going on with Zaven Collins and his conversion, we got to be patient with Joshua Dobbs. Like Joshua Dobbs is going to get, at least 4 games, and we'll talk about Kyler Murray here in a little bit, Bo, to be able to settle into this role and give the Cardinals chances to compete and win, God forbid, on Sunday. So I'm anxious to see him. I'm anxious to hear your reports from practice because I think they're going to be positive. And I think that the creativity of just like the sample sizes we got with like David Blau running QB keeps in the red zone, draws, boots, end arounds, that's all going to be incorporated in what Joshua Dobbs does, not only week 1, but beyond.
Yeah, absolutely, Santana. I'm over the tank BS talk. JG said win, so let them compete. And, Monty Ossenfort is riding the line between, putting his team in the best spot possible to compete in games in 2023, but also getting the roster ready for a pivotal 2024 offseason.
That's right.
That's his job. And then Jonathan Gannon's job absolutely is to win football games. He's not going to just sit back and say, oh, well, the old front office is tanking. My hands are tied, and I'm not even going to, give an effort here. He's going to look at this roster and say, hey, we can't compete with this quarterback room right now. Or, hey, we can't compete, and this is just me making things up, but like this defensive line or, we don't have enough depth at corner or like Isaiah is not bringing enough as far as on the back end of the defense. It doesn't make sense for us to try to make this one and done work. So, I think that obviously you've got to compartmentalize as far as the two entities working together. It's like the front office and the coaching staff and they're meeting in the middle and they're finding a solid resolution. And like people, they honestly have, they can't really like see the forest through the trees when they look at Joshua Dobbs. They just look at the straight numbers and they look at this guy who's been in the league and had a couple cups of coffee as far as seeing time on the playing field, but they just don't see like where the strengths of Monty is and where the strengths of Drew Petzing's offense is. And they found the guy that meets those without having to go out there and spend, starting quarterback money because they don't have the luxury of spending that kind of cap space.
Well, I think every other position you can operate from a wait and see approach, practice squad, minimal trades, waiver wire pickups. They're going to do that on the defensive line. They're doing that at safety now behind Isaiah Simmons being gone. Their third safety might not even be on this roster. They're going to supplement a 6th-round rookie corner as CB2 to Marco Wilson. They're going to try a lot of stuff out. Where you cannot mess around is at quarterback. And they're telling you that. Yeah. They were not willing to flush the toilet on the first 4 games of the season with Colt McCoy, for lack of a better term. They were not ready to sacrifice that. And what that would do, the detriment that would do to the locker room. Mm-hmm. What kind of message does it send to guys? I mean, everybody knows this. Like, this is public perception now that Colt McCoy can't play. You don't think behind closed doors that these guys have seen like this dude can't even reach me, across the field. I'm barely running 10 yards and he can't hit me in stride. Like, what's going on here? He's not throwing every 3 days. We couldn't have gotten somebody else to come in here and operate. Like, this is a belief in this roster. Whether you think it's a belief in this roster to compete and win this year, it's a different discussion. And it's something that we illustrated last week. Nobody on this program is going to suggest that Joshua Dobbs is a franchise quarterback. But like, do I think Joshua Dobbs can come in and be competent and have the offense look at times explosive and have him make plays with his feet? 100%. Absolutely. This was always supposed to be the plan. If you've watched this show for upwards of 6+ months, first of all, thank you, like and subscribe. But especially Kyler Murray and Joshua Dobbs have a very similar skill set, right? Now, Kyler Murray is the apex. He's everything you want in the position, right? On the field especially. But Dobbs should have been signed in March. They see that now. They're going to rectify it. Could they take some lumps in the short term? 100%, easily. They could not look good week one, and they'll have to stand up there. And Gannon and Ossenfort will have to admit, we got our quarterback too late. We're trying to play catch up. I would rather them do that than go through it with a quarterback who cannot play physically.
Great insight in the chat. Who is that? Jalen Blair, per Albert Breer, who I think has good connections, obviously, with Monty Ossenfort being formerly in the New England Patriots organization for so long. Cards are taking a few days to sort through the quarterback's situation. Tune has come a long way, but they simplify the offense a bit for him to start.
Yeah,
absolutely. You cut the field in half, no doubt about it. And you got to, obviously do some things to make sure he doesn't get wrecked like he did in the opening drive last year. But I just still think it's an uphill climb for him. And if he was going to, lock down the job, he would have done it maybe a week ago.
Well, here's what I will say, though, to people who want to see Clayton Tune. There's nothing to suggest if Joshua Dobbs struggles for 3 weeks,
right,
and Kyler Murray's not ready, that Clayton Tune couldn't play a game or two. Like that's 100% on the table. He could operate as a starter. But I think the Cardinals were hoping that Clayton Tune would take the baton, and he did not have the kind of preseason that, a first year quarterback that's starting week one needs to have. He's not CJ Stroud out there or Anthony Richardson, making plays left and right in the preseason. He looks like a fifth rounder, and that's okay. So this is very much week to week. Outside of, they're not going to play a 37-year-old quarterback for a team that needs to evaluate young talent. I want to get to some of these super chats, Bo, if we could. Free matter for the blind, $10. Thank you so much. Colt will be all right. Kyler will stay on PUP expletive, and we're going to talk about Kyler Murray here in a little bit. Free matter for the blind. Colt, 100% will be all right. He's a made man. There's nobody more respected in this league as a backup. Everybody's body gets out. Colt, Nick Foles, it happened to last year. I mean, Peyton Manning, circa 16. I mean, these guys, these are icons at the quarterback position. Colt, especially at the collegiate level, he's been playing a long time. He's 37 years old. I think had the Cardinals released him in March, he might have already retired. He might have said, okay, I'm going to take some of my guaranteed money that I got. I'm going to go and broadcast. I'm going to be on College Game Day. Colt's going to do just fine post-football, but we got to play.
You just put him on College Game Day?
Well, maybe something like that. The Big 12 network or something.
It's already a solid lineup.
Well, can he come on this show? Should we invite him onto this broadcast?
I mean, after all the things you were right about, you're wrong about that.
Okay, I apologize. But I feel like maybe it would have expedited his next career path.
For sure.
We wish him well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we'll see, as he takes on the next venture. What a career the guy's had. 14 years in the league, and navigated a tough situation in Cleveland. Kept himself afloat as far as in Washington and New York, and then ended up here and really found a good fit for himself, backing up Kyler Murray, and came in and went 3-3 as a starter. So let's get into more of these super chats. AZ fan 1998. Talk about crazy, either Tune time or Dobbs time. Let's get into this. This is what Jonathan Gannon said as far as the new quarterback competition that becomes Joshua Dobbs v. Clayton Tune.
You know who your starter's going to be.
Yeah, I think we got a plan in place, but I want to see them both play football still. This week we got some work, and then the following week we got some work, but I feel good where we're at.
The plan in place is Joshua Dobbs, right?
Why would you trade for Joshua Dobbs if you were going to start Clayton Tune? Why not just make Colt McCoy your backup? I think out of respect for the work Clayton Tune has done, then you leave it up in the air.
And we'll see how they play the reps, because before it was 90% Colt. Clayton Tune would be sprinkled in training camp and as early as or as late as last week. But for the most part, hasn't seen much first team. We'll see how they divvy those up. They'll be back on the practice field Wednesday and Thursday. They'll have Friday off, more of a walkthrough on Friday, and then really start to ramp things up next week, game week against the Washington Commanders. But JG did say this today. This is this quarterback competition as far as naming a starter. He's not going to name one. They're going to use that as a quote competitive advantage going into Washington. That's where you're like, this is a little bit sad. This is a bit sad, but it's tough. I mean, Tune v. Dobbs, but we're not going to have I think we can assume that it's going to be Dobbs, and I'm sure Washington will as well. But they're going to prepare with, and I think Dylan Richards made a good point. Jacoby Brissett's very familiar with this offense. under Drew Petzing. They were both in the same organization in Cleveland last year, where he's going to give them some insight as far as what Dobbs is going to do and what Petzing's going to try to do.
Listen, they got to eat you-know-what sandwich here in the coming weeks because people are going to rip them for how they've handled the quarterback situation, and they deserve some fault. So I think they're just going to carry this to the finish line of the end of the offseason into the regular season of we're kind of making it up as we go a little bit and remedying some of the mistakes that we had. I mean, they made a mistake not signing a competent backup in March. And so now it feels like let's just kind of, helplessly get to week one. But I mean, Kyler Murray's the starter when he's healthy. Until then, I mean, they don't need to say anything, do anything. Like, believe them with their actions, not their words. Their actions told you today and last week that Colt McCoy, number one, is not good enough. And number two, like, we got to get a veteran in here. I mean, NFL teams all the time cut, trade, release players, especially in season when quarterbacks are struggling. The LA Rams last year picked up Baker Mayfield on the fly, and he won games for them at the end of the year. Like that happens. Yeah, a game. That happens all the time, right? So I just for a team, it's just the Cardinals are easy pickings to be able to come at them because they're so quote unquote mismanaged and tanking. Gannon and Ossenfort, they're not. They hear all that. They're not immune to that. They're going to operate the way they want to. They don't owe anybody, this show or otherwise, any explanation. But I think, again, just read the tea leaves of what they've done and how they've operated. There's only one direction they're going to go. Yeah,
let's get back to some of these super chats. Some great questions. This chat is absolutely on fire today. Alex saying, take your flowers, John. You called it. Absolutely. I didn't. Credit where it's due. People said they want me to apologize. I'll never apologize to you ever. But as far as I will admit where you were right, the other half of that, I won't. But you were right, Johnny Venerable.
I don't need that from you. Too much respect to Bo Brock and everybody in this chat. I will ask, though, you don't have to give me flowers, but this shirt I think has new meaning because it's certainly not the product on the field. Maybe we're just effing better at this fucking podcast, PHNX Cardinals. It's half off, by the way, right now. At the
$12 shirts.
This is $12 right now.
$24. Sorry.
$24. Excuse me. $24. And this shirt's available. And so what I ask is that you don't have to, send me flowers. Go buy a t-shirt, half off from the merchandise locker.
Yeah. And with these half off shirts, I took advantage of it. And I'm going to find a way to get a lot of our loyal listeners and new listeners on board by giving away some shirts. Can't wait to do that. So make sure you're following on social media at PHNX_Cardinals. Also, you get free swag just by becoming a diehard. I heard that we've got a little discount on becoming a diehard as well. We'll get into that. More super chats because you guys are crushing it. Let's see. We got our guy AZ Moses 89. Just further proof that national media is clueless sometimes. If they think McCoy getting cut is proof they're tanking. Absolutely. That guy, who's it, Dov? Well, I believe it's just a bot, right? Is Dov a bot?
He's not a real person. He's not on air. He doesn't write anything. He just says he loves reporting takes.
Damon Dog he's got some intel on Dov.
He's from Israel.
Okay.
That's like all anyone knows about him. I found his face because it's like the most impossible thing ever to find what he looks like. He's some dude from Israel that started tweeting about the NFL and has just grown into a social media giant out of it.
But
aggregating.
Yeah, he aggregates reports and news and stuff, but then his own opinion is just like just keep aggregating news and reports, bud. Like,
yeah, he's always talking so much crap.
Yeah.
I also saw Matt Miller, who famously said Matt Barkley wouldn't get past the
not
Cardinals,
getting past 7.
Say today the Cardinals are clearly tanking. Hey, Matt, you should probably not talk about the Cardinals ever again.
No. Barkley's not getting past 7.
No, he's not.
In 2013.
They once traded, I think, a 7th rounder for him when Carson Palmer was here to be a backup after the preseason. Yeah. But no, listen, Colt McCoy for this show and everybody here knew you're probably done. Nobody else cares or watches Colt McCoy this preseason, and nobody else ran. When we would tell people, Bo, when we would go on other programs, other shows, shameless plug, NBC Sports and CBS or whatever, Fox, we would tell people Colt McCoy is pointing instead of throwing at practice. People didn't know how to digest that. People didn't understand. Like, is that just a Cardinal thing that they're doing this year? Is it a part of the tank that they don't want him actually practicing? He physically could not throw. So everybody now saying, well, Colt McCoy has just been a stalwart and he won games for this team. That's true. Mm-hmm. That was under Cliff Kingsbury 2 years ago. I'm sorry. That's just a long time for a quarterback. When it goes fast. So Dobbs is a better quarterback today, right now. They're not tanking because of this move.
More super chats. Continuing here with wrenches and rants. Smart moves. Actually excited to see the final roster. I'll take the over all day long. Twice on Sunday. 4 wins. My ass. Love it. Wrenches and rants. $4.99 super chat. We got free matter for the blind, Johnny.
Yeah, the idea of tanking for an unknown Caleb Williams and giving K1 to another team scares the crap out of me. Watch K1 go win a Super Bowl for another team. I will say, I watched Caleb Saturday night. He was fine.
Yeah.
I did not see
still
it.
Had some highlight. I mean, you're always going to get highlights.
I mean, it's San Jose State. Their defense is a big time concern. Anybody who would suggest that Caleb Williams is a better quarterback than Kyler Murray right now is incorrect. Yeah. Will he be better eventually? I don't know. Is he going to be cheaper? Absolutely. Will they take him if they have the first pick? Yes. But there's so much between now and then. Kyler Murray is going to play this year. Kyler Murray is a better quarterback today. And just like this situation with Colt McCoy, you just got to let things play out. Anybody who is suggesting anything otherwise is just guessing.
Yeah. So simple. As far as the Caleb Williams thing, the botch snap where he picks it up and then just slings it down the field. Unbelievable display of
I would rather have that right now, that little wideout that was true freshman taking back kick return touchdowns. And I tweeted this out. The offense is Cliff Kingsbury, though. It's tough to watch at times.
If you watched last year, I mean, Lincoln Riley, Cliff Kingsbury is very similar as far as the execution. It's I mean, under Lincoln, he's able to teach it a little bit better than old Cliffy boy, who I did check out the Manziel documentary on Netflix. Yeah. And Cliff he's got a pretty big role in it. And when you take what he's saying about Manziel and you apply it to the Cardinals, you can see why things didn't work out here after 4 seasons of Cliff. We got one more super chat from across the pond, our friends over in the UK. Lauren Downey, regular listen, first time watching live. Thanks for joining us live, man. But always thanks for listening to us in Sunderland, England. Love the podcast. Keep up the good work as we continue on here. Colt McCoy cut, Joshua Dobbs, Clayton Tune, QB competition just getting started.
It absolutely is. I'm going to tell you what else is getting started. How about college football season with our friends at DraftKings? Again, did anybody dabble over the weekend on a little college football action? I may or may not have taken USC money line or USC minus 31.
Money line was not a big.
That didn't work out. First of all, USC's defense is not very good again. Pretty obvious. They're going to be bad defense.
They gotta get better quick.
Yes, but they're just very small. They're not like if they play a Michigan or an SEC team. I think it's going to be tough for them. That offense is undeniable. I'm going to tell you what else is undeniable. How about these deals from DraftKings? College football fans, are you ready for week 1? We've gotten past week 0. We're on to week 1. DraftKings Sportsbook hooking you up with can't miss offers to start the season. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on any college football game. Score $200 in bonus bets instantly. Anything can happen in college football. Your team can go from unranked to dynasty mode in just a couple of years. Change comes fast, and the only thing that is a lock is this great offer from DraftKings Sportsbook. It's a call to action. Life's more fun when you're in the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use that bonus code PHNX. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on college football. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code PHNX. The crown is yours. 21 and over. Arizona only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEPS. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms. My DraftKings pick of the week. Anybody want to take a guess what it is? Bo, do you have a guess for me?
Is it Thursday night or what's coming up?
Well, we've got college football this weekend. Anybody want to give me a DraftKings pick of the week for college football in the chat? First one that is mentioned in the chat, I will ride with this weekend on DraftKings. I like
that.
You got somebody that you like ahead of this weekend. Everybody's kicking off. There's some real games. How about this? U of A versus NAU. DraftKings pick of the week, baby.
Book it, baby.
Spread. Let's go. College football will be interesting this year. Agent 47. Dabble with DraftKings, Bo Brock.
Absolutely. And also dabble with our friends over at Wink, because it's just a dabble of THC that you're going to have
Right.
in your delicious hard seltzer. You don't want to miss out on this. Seltzer is so hot right now. So you want to get in with Wink, which is actually non-alcoholic, but it's got that THC in it as well. Summer's not a spectator sport. It's for real, man. I mean, it was 118 out there today. Get that THC CBD balance, that golden ratio. It's equal dose of CBD and THC. It's laid back friend that's hanging out. Always a good time, always chill. Check out Wink right now and get ready for liftoff with their sister product, Countdown. Wink, Countdown. It's the perfect combination. Countdown is a nano emulsion of cannabis infused beverage that delivers sky high blast with powerful flavor. Right now, get either 2.5 milligrams or 5 milligram cans. You can find Wink right here in Arizona. Look for Wink at Sunday Goods dispensaries in the Valley, Botanica dispensary in Tucson if you're down in the Pueblo. Also, it's in 12 states nationwide. Easiest way to get your hands on Wink. Go to drinkwink.com. That's DRINKWYNK.com. Drinkwink.com. It's amazing.
We were hoping for an amazing comeback off of the PUP list for one Kyler Murray, Bo Brock. But I think, again, reading those tea leaves, Joshua Dobbs' arrival, I think basically all but confirmed last week that Kyler Murray would remain on the PUP list through at least the first 4 weeks of the season. And that's exactly what we got today. This is from Ian Rapoport earlier today on Twitter. Kyler Murray will remain on the PUP list as he has to miss a minimum, Bo Brock, of 4 games. And you can read this one of two ways. You could say Kyler Murray will be back week 5, or you could say this could be a while until we see Kyler Murray, period. I'm willing to believe it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. As we talked about on this show last week, Kyler Murray missing 4 games, you might as well make that 5, because he has not practiced this entire offseason. He has not operated in this offense yet. He's going to need, in my opinion, at least 2 weeks of practice with Drew Petzing and company with this offense, developing a rapport with Yelda Froholt before he can come back. What's your initial take on this? And let's look at the schedule after Bo gives us his reaction.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I think it gives this organization a direction it needs to go with, with the idea that Kyler Murray is not going to be here for the first 4 games. And obviously Jonathan Gannon said, he's on 2 plans. One, the rehab, and that's the most important, right? Get his health back to where it needs to be mentally and physically. And then he's got the football plan that's going to get him up to speed in a new system under Drew Petzing, a new play caller coming over along with JG. It's really fascinating that Gannon, Johnny, said he's going to be on 1 or 2 lists. Now, the report is from Rap Sheet that he remains on PUP. The other list that I think is the only other option would be injured reserve. Obviously, you can get with a designation to return. But it's the same thing basically. I mean, you're going to find a guy minimum is going to miss 4 games here for the Arizona Cardinals. But it's a bit of a bummer, but at the same time, you understand it. I mean, you see Hendon Hooker, who was injured a little bit earlier than Kyler Murray. He's still not back. He's going to remain on PUP. They're about the same age, which is crazy. But I mean, it's going to be just one of those processes where I don't think he didn't suffer a setback, but it's just one of those things where they haven't seen him progress to the point where he's ahead of schedule. He's just continuing the schedule per usual.
Got tipped off 2 weeks ago that they had been encouraged, but they had not seen him at full speed, whatever you want to take away from that.
Yeah.
Like sprinting full speed 100%. And so I think they thought they were keeping options open. I remember we talked about it. Would he start camp on PUP? Would you let him practice off to the side? And I think every time they're faced with a reality of let's let Kyler, participate, we can do something different, they've opted for the side of caution. And I think as frustrating as that is for Cardinal fans in the short term, it's what's best for Kyler Murray in the long term. And this franchise, since Steve Keim was exited out of the building, I think continued to do what's best for Kyler Murray. And I think Kyler Murray, I know he appreciates that. Because again, I think Joshua Dobbs is going to be, in my opinion, competent enough to get you to Kyler Murray. Had it been Colt McCoy, I think that would have been, where's K1, what's happening, what's going on. Now you have eliminated any kind of distraction with Kyler Murray. And maybe I didn't factor that in well enough, Bo Brock. I thought, what's the harm in just stashing him at the bottom of the roster? He can participate as much as he wants. He can work his way back. But everybody in the media, everybody otherwise would have been like, is this it for K1? Is he taking first team reps? What's going on? Whereas they're building out themselves an out clause that this is Joshua Dobbs' show for at least 4 weeks, and then they're going to reevaluate. And I would hope that he is activated after 4 weeks, but I think until that happens, there's no guarantee. Kyler Murray, to me, this season is going to be so polarizing for this franchise for so many different reasons, but it comes down to when does Kyler Murray play and where do the Cardinals pick in next April's draft? Because again, nothing in everybody else's mind, nothing else matters than that. Isaiah Simmons is gone. Colt McCoy is gone. Two holdovers from the prior regime. The most expensive man in the room is the guy not playing. When does he play, and does he help himself in enforcing the issue with Caleb Williams?
Yeah, and if he does help himself, it's only going to translate to success for the team. And the more success that the team has, the further it can remove it, at least with its own pick, from the Caleb Williams sweepstakes that is obviously at a fever pitch, after a 4-touchdown performance on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, it's Kyler Murray, regardless of what you have. I understand the polarization that he brings, and it's going to continue and probably throughout his career. Even if he comes back, knocks the rust off, and kind of adapts to Petzing's system, there's still going to be doubters out there. No doubt, as far as Kyler goes. So, I think just getting him back and making sure that he is in the best possible position to succeed is so important for both parties here as far as the Arizona Cardinals and their franchise quarterback go. I mean, they're just I just don't see I know like a lot of people want to point to, what they feel is evidence to tanking and not want this team not contending and really truly just contending for the top of the draft, where I just don't think that you can't you can't forecast that. It's too tough. So like their best option, and I think their best way forward as an organization, is the guy that you have under contract that proved to albeit the previous regime, but proved to people in the NFL that he is a franchise quarterback. And I just don't think that, I think that gets discounted far too often.
Dylan Richards hits the nail on the head. 8 to 10 games is enough to prove, is Kyler Murray the long-term answer? I mean, I think so. I think that they're going to get double-digit games still. I believe that from Kyler Murray this year. And if they win a few, if he's trending up, it's an easy decision. And I also think, regardless of when Kyler Murray plays or not, I don't think the Cardinals are getting the first pick in the draft. I just don't. I think they're going to win enough games with a fourth place schedule with Joshua Dobbs or whomever starting. I think too high of this coaching staff, you have to be so bad to get the first overall pick. And I think the Cardinals are going to play better as the season goes on. I think the younger players are going to buy in. I think they've got untapped talent with some of the holdovers from the prior regime. But again, I mean, if they end up 1-1 next spring, it's going to dominate the offseason. It's going to dominate this show. But they could win week 1 with Joshua Dobbs, and suddenly the tank could be off, right? The Caleb Williams thing could be. They beat Sam Howell and company, which is within the realm of possibility. Cards money line week 1 over plus 200 with our friends at DraftKings and otherwise. If they win week 1, what's the chances they get the first overall pick? It would be immensely difficult for that to happen. That would just assume
a Bears performance, right?
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to basically we all knew what the Bears were doing last year. I mean, they were winning games through 3 quarters, and then suddenly they would implode. I don't know what was happening there. I mean, we do, but to me, it's the Cardinals have winnable games on their schedule, even for this roster. So we got a long way to go, folks. That's the intrigue of the NFL.
Yeah. Have you seen anything else as far as this roster goes? I mean, along with Colt McCoy, they made a couple other cuts. Pat Elflein goes to IR.
Yeah,
seems like that's to the point where it's not with a chance to come back. So, and then Gannon gave us an update where there really wasn't an update as far as the 2 offensive linemen that were injured on Saturday, and Jonathan Gaines and Dennis Daly, 2 interior offensive linemen that were probably going to make this roster, right? And be relied upon as versatile backups. But you see the roster moves like Sean Chandler, the guy who's going to miss the first 2 games anyway with a PED violation, and a corner, Nate Hairston. And then there's, reports out Brian Cobbs is going to get released. And then another cornerback was released as well. So, you're looking at 6 guys have already exited the 90-man roster. Still a long way to go. But and Johnny, I mean, we got to assume that this team is going to be active as far as the mass exodus of players from other rosters.
I was told that 8 to 10 spots at the bottom of the roster could be churned this week, where guys you would assume make the team could be gone. And we've already seen that with their starting quarterback, right?
Right.
Does David Blau make this team? I know they want to keep David Blau around in some capacity. I don't know if they're willing to use a roster spot on him. In what world did Jeff Driskel get to keep his roster spot a day longer than Colt McCoy?
There was some discussion at the facility today from this is all Cardinals reporters. Like, did they stash Driskel? Because at the beginning of training camp, he was ahead of Blau. And I wonder if they're like, okay, this is our guy. This is our third guy. We want to hide him.
With an injury designation, though, they say he's not healthy.
Yeah. But he looks like he's been close.
But I've seen, what you've seen in practice. Blau, to me, like, that's doing Blau dirty. If you're going to cut David Blau and you're going to keep Jeff Driskel.
They let him play 3/4 of the game. I mean, they let him put out a lot of tape this preseason.
Trace McSorley got cut today. Does that do anything for you?
No, it certainly doesn't.
I like Blau. I would like to see Blau at least on the practice squad, and then you could bring him up as an emergency quarterback. To me, it's like guy was pretty solid in the preseason. They clearly like him. He seems like a good dude. Maybe they have plans to grab another quarterback though. If somebody gets released.
So I mean, when you start to kind of connect the dots and you look at it, I mean, obviously it's going to probably be like you see the guys that were sent off of Philly's roster over the weekend and will continue to be like, that's easy, right? Rollis, JG, probably some connections there. Yeah. Cleveland, you look at guys, with the offensive line, their offensive line coach coming over from Indianapolis. If they cut anybody, that's a good place to kind of start digging and connecting those dots. So, but that's 10 players at the bottom of the roster. Yeah. That's big,
what I got.
Big revolving door.
8 to 10 players at the bottom of the roster could be churned.
And that's another thing, a variable to take into consideration week 1 against Washington. I mean, that's a ton of turnover in a short time.
Yeah. But I think the injuries to the interior offensive line play a factor in that as well. I think Marquise Hayes has helped himself. Is ALLCITY Smith going to be on this roster? I would say that's a tall task. I think they're going to claim an interior offensive lineman because I don't get the sense that they're encouraged with what's going on, especially with John Gaines, which is unfortunate.
Right. And wouldn't you say that it's not a true testament to the players coming in like, hey, we needed to go out and get these guys, but more an indictment like, can these guys that were in camp with us, can they play? No, we made a decision on that. Let's see what we can get.
I definitively believe that they know that there are going to be better players available to them in the next couple of days. That like the bottom of this, I mean, we saw it, guys, especially against the Chiefs. Go watch that second half if you can stomach it. Like the bottom of this roster needs to be churned. And even if these guys are here for only a year, it's like, let's try to be viable and competent. And then let's see who's worth keeping around, right? The Cardinals did this at peak Bruce Arians years where go look in 2013, give them credit, Steve Keim. They did not finish gutting this roster until about week 1, and they were implementing people. So I think the Cardinals are going to find a couple finds. I think running back's a position. You mentioned, of course, quarterback, interior offensive line, defensive line, corner, safety. There's about 6 positions right now. That's the benefit. And I don't mean to keep knocking Cliff Kingsbury. He had no ties to anybody in the NFL. Right. Very minimal.
Yeah.
Vance Joseph, he had ties, but they weren't good ties. Gannon, Petzing, Rollis have ties to, in Austin Ford, organizations that have had success, right? Philadelphia, Super Bowl runner-up, Austin Ford in Tennessee, winning that division every single year. They were the number 1 seed a couple of years ago. I mean, Cleveland, say what you want, they don't win a ton of games, do well at the line of scrimmage, can run the football. To me, it's Gannon's got ties back to Minnesota and Indianapolis. Like, They know players in the NFL. They're going to be ready to hunt on, just like they did with Dobbs.
Right. And there wasn't a whole lot of respect for the former general manager. I mean, we saw, and in hindsight, it opened our eyes to who was making the personnel moves and who was really being able to identify talent or guys that had still some things left in the tank. It was Bruce Arians back when they had the most success. But, it's a great point, and it's one that we pounded the table on as far as the connections. Like this is a young coaching staff, no doubt about it. But Jonathan Gannon's been in the NFL for 15 years or close to 15 years. Monty Ossenfort has been in 20 plus years, and so is Dave Sears as assistant general manager. And then you've got, guys across the league that have NFL experience or across the coaching staff that have NFL experience that have their guys that they know can compete at the NFL level. And that's invaluable. And it's refreshing that it's finally here after 4 years it was absent.
Yeah. And again, like this is not to say like these aren't good people. I know a lot of people can be a little disheartening this week when you're just talking about a player as like a piece of meat, right? And it's just get them out of here. They're terrible. And I can appreciate that. But I also can appreciate this franchise. They have no ties to these players from the prior regime. That's why we said from day one, they're going to prioritize rookies, which they have. They're going to prioritize their own people. The Cardinals under Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim, we're not a winning organization. We're not a winning franchise. But here's what I think is the best testament of where Jonathan Gannon comes from. He told Colt McCoy and Isaiah Simmons, you're going to be a part of this team because we need you. And for different reasons, it didn't work out, and they did not hesitate to move on. They gave Isaiah Simmons 4 or 5 months. We're going to put you at the position you want to go to. We're going to try to elevate you. He didn't buy in. And then Colt McCoy subsequently couldn't produce physically. They moved on. They have given these guys under Keim and company time's up now. Time's up. You can either play for us or you can't. And that's a difficult reality when you're drafted by Steve Keim and you're part of a dysfunctional
Think how short
organization.
that list is. Think about how short that list is of guys that were in this building at this time last year and are still here, but they were given an opportunity by the new coaching staff. As far as like, hey, we're going to give you a chance to stick around. I mean, it's obviously like Buddha was entrenched, right? And we know that he had a tough off season where he even reportedly asked for a trade, and they were able to throw him a couple extra cash. But then you've got like guys like Greg Dortch. I mean, it's Greg Dortch. Who else is there? Antonio Hamilton, potentially. We'll see what happens in the next 24 hours. I think Hamilton's probably on this team. There isn't a whole lot of guys that were given the opportunity and took advantage of it. And most of the guys are already gone.
I would say if you were a high draft pick of Steve Keim within the last couple of years, you're still on your rookie deal. You're safe. Everybody else, I mean, anything's up for grabs. Not only now, but like the trade deadline, mid-season, I expect the Cardinals to be very active. They already bailed on Isaiah Simmons. They traded away Josh Jones. If you're a day 3 pick for Steve Keim and you've made it this far, I would say you're probably sweating bullets right now through the end of this week. To me, it's this franchise is going to look for the better, unrecognizable by next spring. We talked about it last February, Bo. They are going to churn this roster into what they believe can contend in the NFC. The Cardinals were the epitome of soft under Cliff Kingsbury. They just were. The soft, how they played offense, Vance Joseph's soft 3-4 cover zone defense, right? They are changing the perception every single day. It may not pay dividends the first 4 games Kyler Murray's gone. It may not pay dividends by Halloween. But the goal of this season should be I can see their vision for 2024 and beyond, and it's young players and it's physicality. That's what this season's about.
Yeah. I mean, the direction of the organization is trending the right way for the first time in a long time. And people, they won't acknowledge that. They're saying this is a tank, but there's a lot of unpopular decisions that have to be made in order to really right the wrongs of their predecessors. It's just, it was not just, hey, let's go sweep some stuff off the floor. It was, hey, we need a pressure washer and we need to get the shit off the walls. Or we need to just knock these walls down because this place is an absolute sty. Knock it down to the foundation.
And we all get invested in these draft picks and these free agent signings. We were excited about X, Y, and Z. And then when you don't produce, you have to make difficult decisions. I see in the chat, somebody asked, is Majay Sanders a potential practice squad candidate? No, he would get picked up off the practice squad. I do think, Bo, that's an interesting name just to look at. Is he healthy? Do they put him on IR designated to return? Because of all the positions, and you guys have pointed out in the chat, I think outside linebacker is the one where, I mean, like, who do you cut? Who do you cut from this group?
Yeah. I mean, Majay still has his hand wrapped. We'll see if they feel like he's going to be somebody that can make an impact come the first Sunday of the season, 14 days from now, which is really going to be interesting to see if that's something they believe is possible.
Yeah.
Or does he start the season on IR and take 4 weeks to get healthy? JG said you'll see him out there, and we have seen him out there, but only in like low tempo practices. Anything with shells and helmets, it's just not. He's not participating in that. And then, like after watching his debut on Saturday, how much can you rely on BJ Ojulari to get up to speed come week one? I'm skeptical. I mean, I think he's going to be somebody that's going to play significant snaps, but is he ready physically at this point right now? You know, I'm sure he's on the roster because you already pulled him off PUP, but is he somebody that, you know, does he see just very little snaps to start off because he's just not up physically enough to deal with the speed of the NFL? And then Garrett Williams, not a pass rusher, but a guy that is going to stay on NFI. JG said today he's going to stay on the non-football injury list, which is basically the PUP. It's just his injury happened in college. So they can probably negotiate his salary down for this year, and we'll see how they decide to deploy him. But yeah, the pass rush group, it's really interesting. It's like, is Gardeck going to get healthy enough? He looked when he was solid. He came out of the gates and he had some good speed off the edge. And Zaven, I think he's going to have a huge role. And then Cameron Thomas. But outside of that, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of unknowns.
Jesse Luketa, you would hope, makes this team. He was a captain Saturday. He played 3 positions, including special teams. We're going to give some roster predictions here in a second. I want to remind everybody, check out Circle K right now. I read today, Bill Brack, 114 degrees, hottest day in the history of Arizona for August 28th. So we're breaking heat advisories if you're in Arizona, which is not a good thing if you're not hydrated. So check them out, load up, 25 cents per gallon in your first 5 fill-ups, by the way, on this free membership program. They're America's thirst stop for a reason. So go fill up and then load up ice cold fountain drinks, coffee, pizza, whatever you want to do it with our friends at Circle K. Join the Inner Circle Club. I love that, for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply. At participating locations, visit circlek.com for more details.
All those draft picks, cleaning up the mess from the previous regime. The future bright for the Arizona Cardinals. Might need to invest in some Shady Rays, obviously, to keep that glare out of their eyes. 50% off 2 or more pairs right now on premium polarized shades at shadyrays.com. Full just product line of all the premium sunglasses and styles that you're going to want. Check them out for yourself. Go to shadyrays.com or check them out in their new Scottsdale location up in Carolyn Commons. Go see which sunglasses you like, then go online, shadyrays.com. PHNX is going to hook you up with 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
I just want to say a quick thank you to everybody who said some really nice things about this program. We're humbled. We do try to work incredibly hard to be able to provide the most definitive Cardinal coverage there is. And I think that we are getting there all because of what everybody here in this chat and this community has done for this podcast. So thank you all so much. It is not lost on us, just a couple of schlubs that love this team, want to support this team and hold this team accountable. And it's been a tumultuous 18 months for this franchise. But again, our job is to come in here, maybe entertain, and also give you the skinny on this franchise. So I would hope, if anything, that you guys feel like you can trust us every day when we flip these mics on.
That's right. Is that our power couple name? Is it Jobo? Is it?
I love that.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
Jobo?
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
The sneaky Joe Boo saying, "Great work, Jobo." It's like something you would see in People magazine. Us just coming out of Circle K with Polar Pops. It's like, here's Jobo. There's the celebrities
in Maricopa.
Chase, PHNX Cardinals rock. Keep up the great work, team. Yeah, I completely echo what Johnny just said. Just it's crazy on the heels of pretty shocking news to everybody but Johnny Venerable, for people to come out and say, well, PHNX Cardinals was right. I mean, it's just storylines that we follow on a daily basis, and we're just privileged to be able to talk Cardinals with all of you each and every day. Right. And the audience, the community that we continue, that we're all building together, It's all about that, right? And talking Cardinals and giving a true glimpse of what's going on with the organization, not, what, certain sects of the media want you to think about the organization. So this is the real deal.
And to be real, this franchise has been underrepresented from this kind of content for far too long. And we hope that we've been able to provide that and continue to do so. Eris in the chat, thank you so much. $4.99 super chat. What available offensive lineman could the Cardinals potentially trade for? I think they're not going to trade for any. I think that there's a good chance they claim some. I couldn't tell you a name, but I would think, based on what I've heard about John Gaines, that they're going to have to claim at least one. I will say that the interior offensive line looked pretty solid in the second half against the Vikings. But like anything else on this roster, Bo, it's a very delicate situation when you talk about depth. I really like the Cardinals starting front five on their offensive line.
Yeah.
But if anybody goes down, if Will Hernandez,
well,
if the other,
I think you can go six deep,
yeah,
right?
with Calvin Beachum.
Mm-hmm.
But if one of them goes down, especially on the interior, it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, bingo, no doubt about it. That's a big time concern. Pat Elflein put on the IR. Gaines, it looks like it's going to be tough for him to stay off missing any significant time. So you're down, who you thought were going to be behind Yelda Froholt at the center position, or guys that could slide inside, and that's a huge bummer. So now you got to rely upon your GM that's going to be able to kind of match up with what they're doing, especially schematically on the offensive line. Who's going to become available between now and whenever waiver claims end after the deadline. It's going to be really tough. It's to lose one is really tough. To lose two, man, that's going to be rough for this organization to overcome. And you got to hope that they stay healthy in that part of the offensive line.
Yeah, I don't have knowledge or information on the timeline of both injuries. I think Gaines is worse. He had to be carted off, obviously. It looked worse. But Gaines had a nice camp for them. F-line, old players are typically get hurt. I
think F-line was just like break glass in case of emergency. Like 2,600 starts or snaps at center at the NFL position. They just wanted to bring in some experience and just say, hey, if Froholt, for some reason, we believe in him. If things go haywire there, we can turn to F-line. We know he has experience, and it's just like Clayton Tune. We're not just turning to a guy that was playing center at the collegiate level a year removed. That'd be a bit naive, and it wouldn't be in what Monty Ossenfort has shown us who he is as a GM. It wouldn't be prepared.
Well, and here's what I will say, and I knocked them for how they handled the quarterback situation with Dobbs, and they haven't played a regular season game yet. It's a brilliant move right now to sign Yelda Froholt as your starting center. He's had a tremendous preseason and somebody that is going to ooze physicality of what their offensive line wants to do. And I think he's got familiarity working with Joshua Dobbs. I mean, you think about that should be your tandem here indefinitely until Kyler Murray comes back. So they're kind of going, I mean, look who they hired as their new strength and conditioning coordinator. It's this guy from Cleveland, right? They're cherry picking people from Cleveland, not because they're the best franchise, they have the best players. They want to try to emulate what they want to do from a physicality standpoint and then insert a franchise quarterback like Browns are doing with Deshaun Watson with Kyler Murray. And they think, okay, we can build a base where you don't need a franchise caliber quarterback. We can win 7 games. Okay, then you insert a Kyler Murray and you're winning 10, 11, 12 games, right? It's what the Niners do. It's what all these people do that come from that style of play offensively. Whereas when Kyler Murray was not clicking on all cylinders and they didn't have a franchise quarterback, you went from competitive, viable to unwatchable first, second, third pick in the draft. They are trying to build something that's sustainable without the quarterback being elite. And I think they're not there yet, but Paris Johnson this draft, maybe Joe Alt next draft, that's what they're looking for. Look how many first and second and third round picks the Cleveland Browns have inserted up front. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. That's what the Cardinals want to do. David Njoku, could that be Trey McBride? So I am bullish on where this team is going offensively. They're just not there yet.
Yeah. Guys like Hayden Howerton, I think Lacita Smith could potentially benefit, from the injuries, make their way onto the active roster to start. But to your point, it's it's probably like those are two opportunities that they could find guys who are being made available either right now or in the next coming hours. And then, running back, I think that there's room to bolster that room. Like, you like Connor, you like Ingram. I think he showed us some things in the final 2 games after he was able to get healthy. But if you can add somebody more of a pass catcher, I think that helps you out as far as what you want to do with the offense. And then, the wide receivers, maybe a guy on the bottom end of the receiving core, but your first 5 are set in stone, right? I mean, it's Hollywood, it's Michael Wilson, it's Rondell Moore, it's Zach Pascal, it's Greg Dortch. It's the guys that you've seen throughout camp continue to kind of star and hold that down.
I have heard that they would like a little bit more size at receiver. What if Michael Wilson goes down? God forbid. What if Zach Pascal goes down? They don't have another wideout over 6 foot. Yeah. I think they would like one more receiver over 6 foot with NFL starting experience or a rotational player to go along with Dortch, Rondell, and Hollywood, who are under 6 foot. Yeah. I think they want in an even split in the receiving core.
Yeah. We had mentioned Schwartz, but he's a guy that's dealing with, is it a concussion?
Yeah, which is unfortunate. Yeah. They can keep tabs on him.
Yeah.
And they're certainly not going to use a waiver claim on him. Because I think he'll pass through waivers, but they could sign him. They could say, come here and rehab and get everything situated. And if you're ever cleared, we can put you on the practice squad. We can do a couple different things. But I mean, is there any doubt they're going to use their number 3 waiver claim here in the next day or so? Of course they are.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's really gonna be fascinating. Linebackers seems like it's solid. Defensive line, I think you could see, especially in the teeth of that defense, them pick up some guys. And then corners. I mean, wouldn't it just make sense for them to bring in somebody with some JG experience at that spot?
Yeah, they would love some added experience in the secondary, and that's not a detriment to Keitrell Clark, but no, I mean, it's Clark and Antonio Hamilton next to Marco Wilson, and that's about it, especially with Jalen Thompson going back to free safety. So I think they're going to be all over 3 different cuts this coming 24 hours. Cleveland, Tennessee, Philadelphia. They're going to be all over those.
Pretty Richie, absolutely. That's what JG told us today, and this podcast has been telling you for the last couple of weeks. Dobbs, very serviceable in 2023 experience and legs. Yeah, absolutely. They like his mobility. They like his arm strength, and they like what's between the ears. So Joshua Dobbs has the leg up as far as the starting role for this Arizona Cardinals team goes. And could they add a safety? That's a thin room behind the 2 stars and Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson. But I think they want to add somebody that can play a little slot or play that role that Simmons was playing, maybe that center field. Somebody with not too much pressure on their shoulders to go back there and maybe create turnovers.
Joel in the chat, what about Derek Barnett from Philadelphia? Yeah. I mean, if he was ever released, I'm sure, but he'd have to get past the first 2 teams on the waiver claim in Chicago and Houston. And for a former first-round pick out of Tennessee, that's asking a lot. But, I mean, here's what I'm going to tell you right now. I don't think the Cardinals have a lot of interest in making a deal for draft picks with a team that just filed the tampering charge against them in Philadelphia. I don't think Monty Ossenford wants to do a deal with who back in Philly. But I think that, I mean, if he became available, I think absolutely. I think anybody from that Eagles roster, save for Fletcher Cox, who he and JG have butted heads before, they're going to be in consideration. I'll go out on the limb right now. They're going to sign somebody from Philadelphia.
Yeah. Exactly, Kyler. All they need is some interior offensive line, interior defensive line, CB, wide receiver, and running back. That's all.
Times are tough, right? When you're stripping it down, you want to get some new bodies in here. But I mean, they're starting a quarterback that will have been here for 2 weeks. I mean, like, think about it. If he got to Arizona Sunday, he's going to turn around and start a game for them in 2 weeks from then. Remember the COVID year, though? There was a guy for, was it Baltimore or maybe the Bengals or somebody that literally was a practice squad receiver? Denver. And he had been there.
He just got released.
He'd been there for 12 hours. He started a game. Come on now. Shit can happen. We can make it work.
Complete ass.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying.
He completed one pass.
Was he even a quarterback either?
He was a quarterback at Wake Forest, and then he was a converted wide receiver. It's hilarious. It was if he had any success, if he had any success, they were going to make a movie.
And
about
did the
the guy.
Broncos have the
Yeah.
first pick in the draft that year? No, they're starting, converted wideouts that had never started NFL games before. Kendall Hilton, man, that COVID year, that was something else, man.
Yeah.
The Cardinals are going to be fine. The Joshua Dobbs, people are like, why are you convinced he's going to be good? I don't know if he's going to be good. I just only know that Colt McCoy would have been bad. So it's like, so now I'm just basing it off of that. And I know what they, like Bo and I talked with Gannon at the combine and everything else since then, they've doubled and tripled down on it. They want to run the football and they want somebody that can move RPOs, boots, play action, hit the open man when he's there. They're not asking Joshua Dobbs to throw for 400 yards and complete 40 passes or whatever. He's probably going to throw for like 15 or 20 times that first game. And if their defense can play like they did at times in the preseason and not give up 30 points. Let's say the defense gives up like 17 to 21 points against Sam Howell, which is probably doable, right? And the offense can run the ball. That's a winnable game for Joshua Dobbs. But where you're going to get in trouble is if you're down 21-0 in the first quarter, Vance Joseph style, you're not going to win games with Joshua Dobbs. No one's saying that Joshua Dobbs is going to be out here, slinging the rock for 5 touchdowns. Right. It's just, come on now.
No, I don't know. 15 to 20 this day and age, that's really tying up maybe a little bit quarterback. More. But no, I hear you. I mean, this is going to be an offense that is going to go through the run game. They're going to establish the run. They're going to be putting themselves in second and third and manageable. If you want to know what it's going to look like, just look at how Tennessee operated in the finale last year. They had Derrick Henry, and they leaned on Derrick Henry to pick up yards on first and second down, and then Joshua Dobbs didn't have to take on too much responsibility when it's like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, like we were used to seeing from the old Cliff offenses, because they would either get a negative play or they get hit with a flag. So you just hope operationally it works out a little bit better. You're not going to see those unforced errors because if they don't do that, if they're disciplined, I think that they'll be able to move the football. And I think Dobbs with a little bit more arm strength is going to be able to move the chains on like 3rd and 4 throws. I mean, you're not asking a lot from that guy. And I think as far as footwork and stuff like that, he's not the most accurate guy in the world, but he's ahead of Clayton Tune in that department.
He's got, like, if it's 3rd and 5 and he's got a chance to run, like, he's going to run. Like, he can pick up first downs with his legs. Like, that's not going to be a problem. I see JTR at 1950 saying we're tanking. The team that looks like they're tanking also plays in the NFC West, and it's the LA Rams. Like, if no one's talking about the LA Rams today, they like are non-competitive in the preseason. And Matthew Stafford, they tried to get rid of him. Cooper Kupp is not participating, not practicing. Like, I would absolutely put a wager on the Cardinals finishing above the LA Rams this year. Cardinals will beat the Rams this year. I don't care how good Sean McVay is. Their team is effing terrible. They have a terrible roster.
Matthew Stafford is like an old man at a rock concert. He's like, these damn kids, I don't get them. They have no discipline. They're always on their phone. It's just his wife on her podcast was just saying Matthew Stafford is having the worst time connecting with the new NFL player.
They tried to move him.
Yeah.
Didi in the chat, we're not tanking, but we're not good enough to win yet. I think there's truth to that. Mm-hmm. Like, but again, when does Kyler Murray come back? I think, and we didn't dive too much into that today. I think Kyler Murray still plays double-digit games this year, and I think they're very competitive when Kyler Murray comes back. AZ Fan 1988, thank you for another super chat. Thinking of week 1, should we worry about Prater?
Good question.
Yeah,
I mean, he had Andy Lee for so many years, and when Andy Lee had to miss any time, I mean, I remember the Indianapolis Colts Christmas game, the Carson Wentz legacy drive where he put the Cardinals away.
I just say goodbye to my family to watch that.
Yeah, I know.
Crash.
It was brutal. It still keeps me up at night. But so do the coaches that Carson Wentz got fired too. They hate him. As far as but that day, like no Andy Lee, they had a different holder. It wasn't Colt McCoy holding kicks. And we've seen like Nolan Cooney, who won the punting job. It's been kind of tough sledding as far as Matt Brady. He's had an inconsistent preseason, but if they can get the snap and the hold down, Prater should be just as consistent as he's been his entire Cardinals career.
I think he'll be okay. I think again he misses kicks every preseason, but I think this year especially they're gonna. I mean, They're going to be, I think, in a lot of close
He
games.
cost
a lot
too
of
big
ugly
on
games.
Saturday. You
Yeah.
can't put your kid's college fund is gone after you went heavy on that parlay.
I got the Cardinals at -1.5, and they won by 1. I've missed a lot. Listen, that's I need some extra scratch so I can take my family out. But thankfully, Illegal Pizza is going to hook me up, though, Bo Brock. It's patio season, which means patio beers, super affordable for the best margaritas in Arizona. By the way, this episode is brought to you by Illegal Pizza, PHNX Cardinals, Illegal Pizza, beautiful thing, irresistible drinks, and mouth-watering food that will fill all of your heart's desires. I'm going to take my flowers today with Colt McCoy gone, and I'm going to fill up my bin with, how about full-size loaded nachos, sour cream, whatever you want on top. Do it with our friends at Illegal Pete's. Custom cocktails, beers, maybe not piping hot queso today, but this fall, it's a cool 80 degrees out. Get some queso, but in the meantime, get some savings. Illegal Pizza is your go-to spot this fall. Stop by for happy hour. It's not 1 hour happy hour once a week. How about 5 hours every single day, 3 to 8 p.m. at all 12 locations. Illegal Pizza, my go-to spot, should be yours for the best burrito buddies and beer for the last 28 years, Bo Brock, in the Valley.
Always great things going on the website, gophnx.com. You want to become a diehard member right now. It's the best time to do so. We've got deals going on that, plus deals going on in the PHNX locker. Don't miss out. Get yourself $24 shirts, all t-shirts, all hats, just $24. Countdown to kickoff for the 2023-2024 football season. Get your hands on all the gear from the PHNX locker. I loaded up today. You should do so as well, but also you need to load up on becoming a diehard. Get exclusive access to our Discord and all the events coming your way this football season and beyond. Become a diehard. Oh yeah, also when you become a diehard, you get a shirt for free each and every year, including the new Greg Dortch shirt. Light the Dortch, Greg Dortch. Get this tee in your closet, in your drawer right now. It's our new release. Go to the locker and buy it for yourself or make it your t-shirt for the year, becoming a diehard. Go PHNX.com. Of course, PHNXlocker.com.
Oh, man. So much good stuff at GoPHNX.com. We're so excited about to share with you the stuff we've got coming up in the coming weeks. But, Bo, I thought we'd use these last couple minutes here to put a bow on Colt McCoy's time in Arizona. He was signed once upon a time to be the backup to Kyler Murray. And in a weird way, I think it really helps his legacy here to not play for the Cardinals this year. I think I wrote an article once upon a time for GoPHNX.com. One of the best backups maybe ever for this franchise, helped get them to the playoffs 2 years ago. Consummate pro, consummate professional. I think that's why it's so hard for people today. But I would rather Colt McCoy go out like this than go out a shell of himself week 1 against the Commanders. So in all seriousness, I will applaud Colt McCoy. Fabulous job here in Arizona, consummate pro, but it was time.
Yeah, I think that's a great point as far as that would have sucked to watch him struggle against Washington week 1 and just kind of be behind physically. I think that's what it came down to. Could he physically compete at this level anymore? And he was just beat and battered, especially last season, going and being to be a 37-year-old quarterback and lacking the arm strength that he didn't have any kind of room to give up as far as throwing the football and any zip on the football or lack thereof. So, but absolute tip of the cap, he was the quintessential backup for Kyler Murray, who was a guy that not only Kyler could lean on off the field, that was providing insight to offensive and defensive players, being an extension of the coaching staff, and then going out there, especially in his first, 4 starts as an Arizona Cardinal, he balled out. I mean, he won 3 or 4 starts before kind of the wheels fell off, and they just didn't have a roster that can compete and keep a guy at 36 upright and, keep him from getting hits. I mean, Colt McCoy was a rock solid backup for this organization and did a lot of great things in his time. And it gets lost in kind of in the shuffle of him being cut in I guess for this Arizona Cardinals to try to be able to be competitive while Kyler Murray comes back.
Keep it locked in here at PHNX Cardinals the next 24 hours and beyond. As Bo Brock and I, we're on standby, my friend. Waiver claims, trades, cuts, releases, what have you. This is your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Bo, no practice tomorrow for our precious Redbirds, which means if Monty Ossenford is free all day to work the phones.
Yep, he's gonna, even though he is out there on the practice field, so he can just stay in his air-conditioned office and just wheel and deal and hopefully add some talent to the bottom of this roster and figure out, how this team can be competitive for the 2023 campaign. But, it's no practice tomorrow. They'll be back on the practice field Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday they'll kind of do a walkthrough and then come back with a full game week before you know it. Yeah, absolutely classy, nasty 53-man roster tomorrow. We'll figure out if we're going to be live right at the deadline or if, depending on when we get the information from the Cardinals as far as what the initial roster looks like. But keep that notifications thing set up for yourself on YouTube because we could go live at any point. I don't think we're going to have any emergency pod releases left in the tank, but we will definitely tell you as soon as we do know what the initial 53 looks like.
Ian in the chat, Monty's cooking all day, as are your boys. Subscribe to the PHNX Cardinals podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are putting a crescendo on our best month to date, and that's a big thank you to all of you. Like this video again, subscribe, check out gophnx.com, get a half-off shirt like this one. Maybe we are just effing better here on the PHNX Cardinals podcast. You love to see it. There it is. Half off, $24. Can't beat it. You can't beat this crew. Wouldn't ask for a better team. Bo Brack, Damon Dog, behind the camera, behind the mic. I'm Johnny Venerable. We're back on cut day. Mañana. Thanks, everybody. Peace.